Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help you ignite that CEO within. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced executive coaches and strategic advisors to become licensed circle directors. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, please visit us at quaidcircle.com. I am super pumped for our show today. I get to hang out with Brian Gorman, who is the co-founder and chief profit strategist of Gadal Strategies out of Kenosha, Wisconsin. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, man. This is awesome. I'm excited to be here.
I am pumped. I can't wait. So I'm going to jump right into it because I don't want to wait any longer. I've got one question for you. You work with a ton of leaders. You've seen all kinds of business folks. You've just had an amazing career and been exposed to a bunch of people. You've seen what excellent leadership looks like, and you've also seen what probably not so excellent leadership looks like. If you could dial it down to one or two things that separate the excellent from the not so excellent, what would that be?
So I've often said one of the unique perspectives that I've had in my life is, I worked for 25 years as a minister, and one of the unique things that a minister gets to do is be a fly on the wall to other people's lives. So you really get to see the inside. I joke that, you go to your therapist, you talk to him for an hour. I'm the dude you're calling every night for 3 hours because of whatever fell apart in your life. And so before doing what I do now, that was a big part of it. And what I got to see was sort of that inside of both the business world, the not-for-profit world, the church world. What I tend to find is, and you got to stay with me for just a second, is it
I'm
all
here.
comes down to focus. Now, I know most time when people hear that, they're thinking, well, the thing you're driving toward. And here's what I mean by focus. Every leader I've ever met is focused on one of three things. And which one of these three determines your success? You're either focused on fear, on pride, or on success. And you cannot be focused on more than one at the same time. So a leader who's focused on fear is just so afraid of making the mistake. So they just hold on to status quo. They hold on to everything they've got because they're so fear focused. It's just they've got to cling to it. You see this a lot of times, especially when someone's like, my family rests on these decisions, or, I took this business over from my father or grandfather. So there's these fear moments. The second group of people, they're pride focused, hubris focused, like they're focused on them having to be right. And when they have to be right, they can't ever admit they got an idea from somebody else. They can't ever be humble enough to learn from people who are outside of their industry. They're so focused on being right, they're willing to burn the place to the ground so that they are the ones who made the decision. They're the ones who think they can outsmart the algorithm, right? And then you get success-focused people. And success-focused leaders, they're gaining information from anywhere. They're able to sort of funnel it down into action because they want to win. They want to succeed, not at the expense of everybody else, because they're not trying to compete with anybody else. They're just trying to succeed in the life they have. And great leaders I know are focused on success regardless of where the information, where the input, where the advice comes from. They're not pride and they're not fear. So that is for me number one, and I don't care what industry they're in.
We can end it right now. I mean, that is absolutely the best answer I've ever had to that question. That is amazing. No, seriously, I really like that. So I want to dive into it just a little bit of a handful of things in there. The first one, I can't remember exact phraseology, but they're not out to win at the expense of everybody else. They're not even competing with everybody else. They're competing with themselves. Break that down a little bit more because I love it and I think I know where you're going to go with it and I'm excited.
So if you're a reader or you like books, there's a book called Tribal Leadership, which the book doesn't talk at all about what you think the title is, but what it sets out is that there's these different tribes of people who are functioning within your company, within your culture, right? And so you have certain people who the whole world is against me, period, right? You have that tribe. Then you have the tribe is the world is against us, right? You end up with A lot of the political arguments tend to fall into those sort of brackets, right? And so, but as you keep progressing, you get that second to top tier. That second to top tier is it's us versus the world, right? That we have to go out and destroy everything else because we're the only ones that know how to do this right, and we've got to go conquer. But your greatest leaders, it's us versus us.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to be better, right? And so look at like Microsoft. I believe when Microsoft first got started, their main goal was a PC in every house. Now, here's the problem with that: Microsoft didn't sell PCs, right? But they knew that if they could create the software that made it easy for everybody to use it, that would be good for the world, right? And so when you have that mindset now, you stop making everybody else your enemy, because everybody is your ally to conquer this bigger problem. And the bigger problem are the issues you've got where you sit there and go, but it could be better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking with I got 4 kids, and so I pick 2 of them up from school oftentimes. So yesterday I pick up my 14-year-old, on our way back, and I mentioned something about growing up as a child. She had brought it up. She's like, what do you do when you didn't have a phone to play on in your free time? And we're talking about the kind of things you did, right? I was 5 years old with a motorcycle, right? So which is a true story, right? So I'm talking about this environment, all the things we're doing. And she goes, what do you think that'll be like for me? I'm like, oh, right. And I love that kind of question, right? Because now we're dealing with right. It's just your world. It's not you competing with anyone else. So we're talking
Yep.
about whether your kids will ever know what it's like to just sit in the passenger seat while you drive. Because is the car going to drive itself, right? That's somebody who's trying to solve a problem bigger than competing with Ford or Chevy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to figure out, hey, can we find a drink that is sweet and refreshing, but not filled with high fructose corn syrup, right? That's a bigger problem to solve. But even in the small business model, right, which is a lot of what I work with, are
Mm-hmm.
businesses at 4 million and below total revenue, that even in that world, when they have the mindset to say, you know what, I am providing an outdoor lighting solution at a premium quality no one else can provide. I'm providing food for people downtown in this small community who need to be able to grab food and be able to get back to work, right? You're solving a bigger problem, and you're just trying to fight to succeed at solving that bigger problem. The leader who thinks like that, man, that leader can conquer anything. And who doesn't want to follow that leader? That's what leadership looks like to me. It's success.
Yeah. I love all that. I think the other thing to add to that, right, are the people, corporate world, you always have people trying to stack rank one company against another and all this and ratios. And while certainly I think that can provide some helpfulness, it can't be the be all end all because, uh, you know, uh, not everybody's facing the exact same things, right? Like there are different things internally that are going to drive certain decisions. There are certain things that one company made that another didn't. That's going to cost them a little bit more money here in the short run, but not in the long run, and all that kind of stuff. And so, if you can just get 1% better, and I'm a Indiana born and bred and Butler University graduate. So Brad Stevens, who led the Bulldogs to back-to-back national championship games, used to talk about getting 1% better every day. And if you can do that, to your point, you're going to win, right? You're going to win. You're going to be successful because it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. If you continue to watch who you are and keep going forward, that's winning.
Yeah. And I think that 2 things come to mind. So I lead these networking groups at cigar lounges for business leaders at cigar lounges, and we talk every month. What's your 1% better this month?
Mhm.
What's your 1% better from last month? Right? Because that's all it is. If you're just constantly working and getting better. But the other thing that goes along with that, we talk about like the pitting the 2 companies against one another. Is I know it's going to be a surprise. They aren't going to exist at some point. That's how this works. Unless you're like the freaks like Nintendo, right? That used to be a card game that now makes, right? They're not going to exist at some point. But when I'm helping someone do what we call strategic stillness, right? It's that work-life tension that goes
Mhm.
on. One of the things I'll have them do when they do their time audit, looking through their schedule, I say, okay, now let's go back into it. I want you to write down your $10 work, your $100 work, your $1,000 work, your $10,000 work, and your $100,000 work. And a lot of times I get that pushback like, what's $100,000 work? And I went, here's a simple rule of thumb. You lose your family, it's going to cost you way more than $100,000. That divorce is going to be a lot more expensive than $100,000. So if you don't have your $100,000 work on your calendar, you're in a lot of trouble, right? But people who are fear focused, people who are pride focused, that job becomes their identity, and it begins to destroy them internally, right? So the work that we do, like when you're working in those peer groups, the value of peers being able to meet together is so someone can sit there and go, hey guys, I know we've been talking about like the business thing, but anybody else been working 80 plus hours a week and their kids don't remember their first name anymore?
Yeah.
Right? Because, man, if you don't get that right, you didn't succeed, even if your business was extremely wealthy. And that's been my experience with the people that I'm interacting with. I mean, I don't know if you're finding that within the groups that you're leading too, but that's what I'm seeing a lot of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think, so much of what our groups talk about is less. Well, I'm going to quote your LinkedIn post from today. It's way less about tactics and way more about everything else, right? Like you can with AI and the internet and your CPAs and your attorneys and so forth, you can get tactics out the wazoo, right? Like you can watch videos on how to do everything. It's how do you live life? How do you balance your life? How do you, think about making an acquisition? How is that acquisition going to be integrated into your existing company? What's your wife going to think about it if you're working 80 hours a week?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that CEOs need, because as you know, it is a lonely, lonely world to be in that seat. And if you've never sat in it, you have no idea what the opportunities and challenges are that come along with that. And so to be around folks that you can talk about those things is really powerful.
Yeah. Because only those people who are in a similar place can resonate with that. But I go back to, if you are pride focused, you're never going to share those problems. If you're fear focused, you're never going to share those problems. But if you're success focused, you know that what goes on at home drives the success of what you do at work. And what you do at work, in a lot of ways, drives the success of what you do at home, right? Because if you feel like a failure at work, it is tough to be your best self at home. And if you feel like a failure at home, it's tough to be your best self at work because you're trying to prove something. A hashtag that I use on some of our posts is improving, not proving, right? I'm
Right.
trying to improve, but it doesn't change who I am as a person. It's just making me better as a person. So it's trying to improving, not proving. And what I know is my home life is not equipped to handle the weight of my work life. Wasn't designed for that. And my work life doesn't care about my home life, right? It's
Yeah.
not designed for that either. And this is where, again, success-minded people, success-focused people are surrounding themselves with other people who can handle the weight of those two roles. I get together every Wednesday night. Um, I get together with a group of other guys here in this community. We just sit down in a guy's garage, and it's a random group of people that we've invited who all have completely different backgrounds, completely different thoughts. And sometimes we sit and talk about really important things. And sometimes we talk about the most important things, which is how are the kids this week? Things getting better at home. You- Uh, are you holding it together right now? Because those are the things that determine whether you can be successful long term as well. Um, And so for me is such a core element is we can get so caught up. You're right in tactics. You can go to Chat GPT. There's 1,000 AIs that can give you 1,000 tactics. But I have found that one of the questions I ask my clients and the companies I work with a lot is we'll map out the strategy we're trying to implement, and I'll go, now, how are you feeling about
hmm
this? Like, can you do that without overwhelming yourself? Um, right. I made a call yesterday to one of the people I work with because I'd given them a pretty pointed, heavy task to accomplish this week. And then I called them the next day just to go, hey, did you make any progress on it? How are you feeling? Is it weighing you down? Is it stressing you out? Because if it is, let's alter it so we can make it more manageable, more measurable, more trackable. You can actually accomplish it without feeling like you lost yourself along the way.
Yeah.
And I just think that's important. But I admit, Mark, you're on one of my hot button topics here. This is that focus stuff, and the idea of I've just met enough fear focused leaders, met enough pride focused leaders, nearly hubris. There are very few who are truly success focused.
Yeah.
They want
Yeah.
success, but not
I
to
agree with
focus.
that. I'm gonna play with your words just for a minute, just for fun.
Go for it.
Really. So I 1000% agree with you. If you're totally fear focused or totally hubris focused, but I do think that fear and ego can be a positive, play a positive role in that success drive.
Yes. No, I'm 100% in agreement. We need these. They exist for a good reason. There's a psychology, a therapy technique called IFS, internal family systems or family structures, something like that. And one of the things it's built around is understanding that there's this core of who you are, and there's all these parts within who you are that are trying to care for the core, right? The one who has to manage everything, the one who's willing to fight somebody, the one who's trying to hide and stay away. It's all trying to protect this core of who we are.
Mhm.
All of them matter, but a friend of mine who is involved in this, he shared this with me just last week. He said the problem with them is that they're all immature defense mechanisms.
Hmm.
He said, so when you've got like that manager in you that needs structure for everything to hold on to the emotional weight of the world, it's true because when you were a child, you found if you could manage everything, it'd be okay, even though it's never really okay, right? If you're willing to just get angry and fight somebody, that's an immature defense mechanism. And healthiness comes where we begin to call out what it is. Yep, this is fear. This is pride. This is ego. This is hubris. Say, now, how do I use it well?
Mhm.
But there's a phrase in the Bible that stands out to me, and it says, "Take captive every thought." The premise of it is, if you've got any sort of trauma in your life, like I don't know, anyone that's breathing, you got trauma in your life, right? That you have these triggers that hit you once in a while, and you have this natural reaction, like I'm going to get really angry and frustrated, and and the idea is like catch it before it runs away, and pull back and go, why?
Mhm.
What is it about that was good and healthy and I needed it to survive? Do I still need it? And if we can begin to grasp those components, to take captive every thought and then go, oh, no, that one's good. You go. Right. So our ego, it exists for a reason. Like we're
Yeah.
supposed to have a sense of pride and strength. I've never met a great leader who isn't pretty proud of what they've accomplished.
Yeah.
And is willing to know what they're good at, because great leaders know what they're good at. And they surround themselves with those who aren't. Bad leaders know what they're good at and don't want anybody better than them around them.
Yep.
Because hubris becomes the focus. So when we can sit there and go, because I'm really proud of this element and that element and this element, we're good. I need to bring other people who are good in the elements I'm bad. Now my ego, playing to these strengths, becomes the
Mhm.
power that I have. So it's that take captive every thought. Fear, man, I don't want to make the wrong decision, or I don't want to offend all these people, right? There's a good reason for that, because some people just run headlong into dumb things, and some people are afraid of anything that might be risky. But when we could take captive the thought of fear, get a good look at it and go, you know what, there's a good point for you here,
Yeah.
but I'm only going to let you control this part, not that part. No, I agree with you completely, Mark. It's got
Yeah.
great value.
Yep.
It's just
Yep.
everything needs to be in its proper place.
Yep. Ah, man, I love it. Well, I think you and I can go on for another couple hours. This has been a blast. Let me ask, I'm going to ask you one more question. If you look back at 21-year-old Brian, what is one thing that you wish he knew that you've learned over the years?
That one's actually really easy for me. Called to this today doesn't mean called to this forever. This is, I've made a mistake for a long time of not going the direction I am right now because I had it in my head called to this today meant called to that forever.
Mhm.
And I wish I could have got a hold of myself a long time ago to say, no, you were absolutely called to this today, but the phone might be ringing for tomorrow. So call to this today is not called to this forever. And I think that for me, it was really important when I've got to figure out how to make major life changes and life shifts. Call to this today is not called to this forever.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Hey, would you do me a favor? Would you share with our audience what a typical engagement looks like with you and how can people get a hold of you?
So yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that. A typical engagement with me. I work with small business owners, usually between 400,000 revenue to around 4 million revenue, sometimes up to 5 to 6, but typically 4 million. Um, our focus is on strategic stillness, um, on profit optimization, making sure we're making enough money to keep doing what we're doing. And then for certain groups, there's some peer functions that exist for certain types of groups as well within that. What it typically looks like, though, is meeting generally once a week. It's about an hour. We're working on how we're doing individually, working on making sure we're controlling and managing our time well, making sure that the decisions we're making for the business are wise, thought out decisions that have definitive, actionable strategies, not just good ideas. And then breaking those actionable strategies into small, bite sized chunks that change for each person so they can actually go and accomplish it. And then we track the metrics of how we're succeeding with that. And it's just every week with that. They also get access to my calendar all the time for quick phone calls and things like that. That's the most common method of how people do that. Best way to just see if that's a good fit for you. In fact, we'll work with you for at no expense for about an hour to be able to show you about how much profit you could be making in that company by just going to gadalstrategies.com. That's a Gadal. It's an old Hebrew word that means take something good and help it grow into excellence. And so gadalstrategies.com, there's a place there you can book time on our calendar and be able to move from there.
Brian, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time and hanging out with me this afternoon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. This is awesome to me.
Awesome. All right, y'all, we have done it again. We have found another amazing leader to share his insights, his wisdom, his experiences with us. And this is going to go down as one of my favorites. So, again, really appreciative of Brian to hang out. Before we wrap up, I want to remind everybody that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quade. Quade is a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. We've launched Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced executive coaches and strategic advisors to become licensed circle directors and significantly impact the lives of CEOs and entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit quadecircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.